Hello everyone and welcome to the 5-minute German A2 course. In today's video, we will take a look at weil and then and also understand what is the difference between both of these words. These words cause a lot of confusion among people because they have the same meaning. But I can assure you that if you watch this video till the end, I will clear all your doubts and you will have no confusion about what is the difference between weil and then and how to use them in sentences. So let's not waste any time and let's take a look at weil and then. So we will start by first of all taking a look at weil and understanding it with different examples. We will also take a look at the sentence structure for weil. After that we will take a look at then and also its sentence structure. And at the end we will do a comparison between both weil and then and see what are the differences between them. So let's start by first of all taking a look at weil in German. So weil can be translated as because in English, and it is used to give a reason for an action. Let's take a look at some examples to understand this better. So suppose we have the sentence Ich lerne Deutsch, weil ich in Deutschland wohne. I am learning German because I live in Germany. Now you see that in this sentence, the second part, which contains weil, is used to give a reason for learning German, and that is because I live in Germany, weil ich in Deutschland wohne. Let's take another sentence. Ich esse gern Pizza, weil es mir schmeckt. I like to eat pizza because it tastes good. Over here as well, the second part gives a reason why I like to eat pizza, and that is because it tastes good. So whenever you want to give a reason for your action, you can use weil. Now let's analyze these sentences with weil a little further. So weil is a subordinating conjunction similar to thus and ob, which we have already studied. Subordinating conjunction is simply something which connects a Hauptsatz to a Nebensatz. So let's take the examples that we saw earlier over here again. Now in these examples, the first part before the comma, which is Ich lerne Deutsch and Ich esse gern Pizza, these are both Hauptsatz. And the second part with weil after the comma, both of them are Nebensatz. If you don't know what a Hauptsatz or a Nebensatz is, then I have made a complete video on this explaining the difference between both of them. I will link it in the description below. You can go and check it out. But just in a few words, I will just say that a Hauptsatz is a sentence which you can use alone, and a Nebensatz is a sentence which you cannot use alone, and it needs a Hauptsatz to make sense. And as we see over here, that weil will always come at the start of the Nebensatz. So we see that both the Nebensätze over here start with weil. Now let's take a look at the difference between a normal sentence without weil and a sentence with weil. So an example of a normal sentence will be Ich komme heute nicht, ich bin krank. I will not come today, I am ill. So here we have two sentences which are separate. Now we see that in the first sentence, the verb is at the second position, and in the second sentence, which is Ich bin krank, the verb is also at the second position. And this is the position where the verb should be in a normal sentence. Now when we connect both of these sentences with weil, then the sentence will become Ich komme heute nicht, weil ich krank bin. I will not come today because I am ill. So what has changed over here? So in the first sentence, the verb remains at the second position as it was originally. But if you take a look at the second sentence where we have added weil, over there the verb has gone to the last position. So this is a very important point that you must know, and that is that when we use weil in a sentence, then it shifts the verb which is at the second position to the end of the sentence. Let's take a look at another example. So we have the sentence Wir bleiben zu Hause, es regnet heute. We will stay at home, it is raining today. Now in these sentences, again, you see that the verb in both the first sentence as well as in the second sentence are both at the second position. Now when we connect both of these sentences with weil, then the sentence will become Wir bleiben zu Hause, weil es heute regnet. We will stay at home because it is raining today. So in case of the first sentence, there is no change in the position of the verb and it remains at position 2. But in the second sentence, where we have added while, the verb goes to the last position. So just keep this in mind that whenever we use while, then the verb at the second position will go to the end of the sentence. We can also use while if we want to give an answer to a question which somebody asks us. For example, if somebody asks you, Warum studierst du Mathematik? Why are you studying mathematics? Then you can simply say, Weil ich es interessant finde. Because I find it interesting. And over here you see that the verb, which is finde, goes to the end of the sentence. Now what about Modalverben? How does the sentence look like when we use the modal verbs, which are können, sollen, wollen, müssen, dürfen, and mögen? So a sentence with modal verbs without while will be Ich muss morgen früh aufstehen. I must get up early tomorrow. So you see that the modal verb is at the second position. Now when we use while, then the sentence will become Ich gehe früh ins Bett, weil ich morgen früh aufstehen muss. I am going early in bed because I must get up early tomorrow. So you see that in the sentence where we have added while, the modal verb, which was at the second position, is now gone to the last position. So whenever you use while with modal verbs, then the modal verb at second position will go to the end of the sentence. Now what about Trennbeierverben or separable verbs? So let's understand this with an example. So we have the sentence Ich stehe früh auf. I get up early. And we have used the Trennbeier verb, which is aufstehen, which means to get up. And we have the suffix at second position and the prefix at the end, as it is for Trennbeier verbs. Now with while, the sentence will become Ich gehe früh ins Bett, weil ich früh aufstehe. I go to bed early because I wake up early. And over here, you see that the Trennbeier verb will go to the last position, but in the combined form. So the rule for Trennbeier verbs with while is that the Trennbeier verb at second position goes to the end of the sentence in combined form. Now let's take one more example with the perfect form. So an example will be Thomas hat gestern gearbeitet. Thomas worked yesterday. In this sentence, we have the verb hat at position 2. Now we know what happens when we use while, and that is that the verb which is at the second position goes to the end of the sentence. So the sentence with while will become Thomas hat heute frei, weil gestern gearbeitet hat. Thomas has off today because he worked yesterday. And you see that hat goes to the last position. So in case of perfect, the rule is the same, that the verb at the second position goes to the end of the sentence. Now I want to give you one more piece of information before we move on to then. So I hope that you remember this slide which we saw earlier about Hauptsatz and Nebensatz. Over here we see that the Hauptsatz comes at the start and the Nebensatz comes after it. But we can write these sentences in another way, and that is that the Nebensatz comes at the start with while and the Hauptsatz comes after the Nebensatz. So you see over here the Nebensatz comes at the start and after the comma we have the Hauptsatz. And for Nebensatz the rule will remain the same, and that is that the verb goes to the last position because we are using while. However, for Hauptsatz there is one small change, and that is that the Hauptsatz starts with the verb and not with the personal pronoun after the comma. So if you write a sentence like this with the Nebensatz at the start and the Hauptsatz after the comma, then you must remember that after the comma you will start with the verb, as you see over here. So this is just a small piece of information that you should keep in mind. Now let's move on to then in German. So then can be translated as and the reason is that or because. So normally people translate it simply to because, but I have given you the other translation which is and the reason is that, because I feel that it makes it much more easier to understand. So let's take a look at this with some examples. So suppose I have sentence 1 which is Ich lerne Deutsch, I am learning German, and sentence 2 which is Ich wohne in Deutschland, I live in Germany, and I want to connect them with then. So the combined sentence will be Ich lerne Deutsch, then ich wohne in Deutschland. I am learning German and the reason is that I live in Germany. Now what is the main difference over here? The main difference is that the position of the second place verb does not change when we use then. So you see that wone did not go to the end of the sentence, rather it remained at its position where it originally was. And remember that we have to use a comma before then as well. Let's take a look at another example with then, and that is Ich esse gern Pizza, denn es schmeckt mir. I like to eat pizza and the reason is that it tastes good. Over here, again you see that schmeckt, which is the verb, did not go to the end of the sentence. Rather, it remained at its original position. So the simplest way to remember the difference between then and while is that in case of while, the verb will go to the last position, but in case of then, the verb will remain at its original position. So this is the simplest way to remember it. Now let's take a look at some other examples. So in case of trennbare verben, the rule will remain the same, that the position of the second place verb will not change. So the sentence will be Ich gehe früh ins Bett, then ich stehe früh auf. So you see that it remains in the separated state and will not be combined. For modal verben, again the same thing, Ich gehe früh ins Bett, then ich muss morgen früh aufstehen. I am going early in bed and the reason is that I must get up early tomorrow. In case of perfect, also the same rule, Thomas hat heute frei, then hat gestern gearbeitet. You see hat remains at the second position. Now let's do a side-by-side comparison between while and then. So the translation for while is because. For then, we have two translations. The first one is and the reason is that, and the second one is because. Now in case of while, the verb goes to the last position or the end of the sentence. In case of then, the verb position does not change. If we use while, then the sentence with while can come at the start. However, the sentence with then cannot come at the start. Now this is the reason why I prefer translation 1 over translation 2 for then, because even in English, you cannot use and the reason is that at the start of the sentence. It must come after you have made a statement. And the last difference between both of them is that while is more commonly used in daily life, whereas then is used mostly in formal writing. So which one do you use? Should you use while or then? Because it can be confusing as both of them require different verb positions. So my personal suggestion would be that in daily life, only use while and get used to the sentence structure where the verb goes to the end of the sentence. This is because other subordinating conjunctions such as thus and ob also cause the verb to go to the last position. I also only use while in my daily life. However, if you are in a writing exam, such as in the A2 writing exam, then you should use both while and then so that you avoid repetition. For example, if you are writing an email or a letter, then it is better that in some sentences you use while and in some you use then. And this will show the examiner that you know both these words and can make sentences with both of them. And in the start, I know it will take some time, but with enough practice, the sentence structure where the verb goes to the end will come to you automatically. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you have any feedback or any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for your time and your continuous support, and we will see each other in the next video.